They plotted against me so quickly that they didn't realize that when they were accusing me of Rosa's murder, I was actually arrested for possession of my firearm. He killed thousands, and with the same weapon, they killed him in the face of silence. His whereabouts are finally revealed. What happened to Old Man Lin? An ending more tragic than we could all imagine. Stay until the end of the video and find out. Barrio 18 was born as a street gang in Los Angeles. Although there are versions that suggest its beginnings in the late 1950s, the gang began to consolidate in the 1980s when it separated from the Clan 14 gang. It became famous for its participation in the Los Angeles riots after the police officers who brutally beat African-American Rodney King were initially acquitted. The group's multiple cliques, which are cells, were made up mainly of Mexican immigrants in Southern California-controlled areas, such as Arthur Park in the Korean section of downtown Los Angeles. However, as immigrants from other Latin American nationalities joined, Barrio 18 began recruiting members of diverse origins, which facilitated its expansion into other countries, especially in Central America. In the late 1990s, a special FBI team and local authorities captured several prominent Barrio 18 leaders. This did not weaken the gang, but rather provided another platform for operating and recruiting. Federal prisons, despite attempts to isolate the leaders from their external contacts and fellow inmates, found ways to continue controlling criminal activities from prison. Some Barrio 18 members also joined the Mexican Mafia, a dangerous prison gang that united street gangs of Southern California into a powerful confederation known as the Serenos. Although these gangs clash on the streets, inside prisons they form a united structure under the rule of the Barrio 18 Mafia. The dominance of the Barrio 18 Mafia expanded southward, particularly into Mexico and Central America, primarily due to a change in immigration policies. In the mid-1990s, these policies expanded the range of crimes for which a foreign-born resident could be deported from their home country. This new policy was heavily applied to California gangs, where there were many gang members who did not have U.S. citizenship. The resulting deportations caused a sudden increase in Barrio 18 gang members and other groups in Central American countries and Mexico, which led to an increase in violence and crime. Toward the end of the 1990s, beginning in El Salvador, Central American governments implemented harsher laws to criminalize mere association with gangs. These policies, known as mano dura, hard hand, resulted in mass arrests of gang members, which logically fostered the growth of gangs by concentrating their members in prisons. This allowed them to reorganize and strengthen their presence on the streets. Barrio 18 became involved in small-scale drug trafficking and extortion, with profits increasing. The gang also began laundering money through small businesses, such as car washes. Around 2005, internal conflicts led to the division of Barrio 18 into two factions: the Revolucionarios, revolutionaries, and the Serenos. These factions continue to clash and compete with the same intensity with which they confront MS-13, their historic enemy. The largest street gang in Central America, Barrio 18 increased its power in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Taking advantage of the weakness of the governments and the great social exclusion was generated to expand into impoverished urban areas. In these places, the gang began systematically extorting public transportation systems, displacing entire communities, and gaining ground in politics. This phenomenon became more evident in March 2012 when the leaders of Barrio 18 and their rivals, the MS-13, agreed to a national truce brokered by a government delegate and the Catholic Church. The homicide rate in the country fell by more than half after the negotiated ceasefire, but violence increased again once the truce failed. The leaders of the MS-13 and Barrio 18 proved adept at leveraging the political capital gained after the truce, raising concerns that the initiative could increase their criminal sophistication and influence in the country. Furthermore, extortions and disappearances apparently continued to increase in El Salvador during the truce, and homicides rose again. In mid-2013, reaching a peak in 2015 before declining again, starting in 2019. There was a drastic drop in the homicide rate in El Salvador, which once again put the country's gangs at the center of attention. Although government officials attributed this decrease to their national security plan, several media reports mentioned an informal agreement between sectors of the Salvadoran government and imprisoned gang leaders. According to this agreement, gang leaders would reduce murders in exchange for better prison conditions. This period of relative calm in El Salvador was interrupted when members of Barrio 18 and the MS-13 carried out a bloody three-day campaign in November 2021 that resulted in 46 homicides. A massacre subsequently occurred in March 2022, in which 92 people, including buyers, vendors, and bus passengers, were killed. Barrio 18 was quick to distance itself from this massacre, which was interpreted as a message to the government. In response to this rampant violence, the government launched the broader war against the lost gangs in the country's history during a state of emergency declared in March 2022 and continuing into November 2023. Tens of thousands of suspected gang members were arrested. This offensive has wreaked havoc among ordinary members of Barrio 18, forcing thousands into exile and resulting in the loss of control of key territories and criminal economies where they once held a stronghold. In November 2022, Honduran President Xiomara Castro attempted to replicate this offensive by declaring a state of emergency to address rising extortion. However, these measures have failed to curb gang activity, and the ranks of Barrio 18 remain intact in Honduras. By the way, if you enjoy the video, we invite you to give us your like and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. We continue with geography in Central America. Barrio 18 operates primarily in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. By mid-2023, the gang had more than 22,000 members in El Salvador alone. It also has a significant presence in the United States, with an estimated 30,000 to 50,000 members in the 2010s, operating in cities in nearly 20 states. However, many of its members reside in California. Barrio 18 is also present in other cities in the western United States, such as Denver. The gang has also had a presence in Italy since the mid-2000s. In September 2016, the capture of an alleged Barrio 18 leader revealed the gang's desire to expand its presence in Europe. Spanish police warned of this danger when they arrested 15 Hondurans in 2023. He suspected they were trying to establish a Barrio 18 cell in Barcelona. There have also been reports of Barrio 18 members escaping the government's campaign in El Salvador to southern Mexico. Allies and enemies. Barrio 18's biggest rival is the MS-13. In El Salvador, Barrio 18 is divided into rival factions, the Revolucionarios and the Serenos, a division that usually leads to violence. The gang also has a close relationship with the Mexican mafia. It is known to have a network of collaborators that includes lawyers, taxi drivers, and mechanics. On many occasions, the gang has been involved in clashes with state security forces during successive anti-gang campaigns in Central America. The role of laws in confronting maras. The El Salvador Congress, controlled by allies of President Bukele, has extended at least until the end of July a state of emergency that allows for arrests. Without a court order, the measure began at the end of March in reaction to 87 murders that occurred over a weekend, all attributed to gang activities. Parliament has also toughened penalties for belonging to these organizations, mainly the MS-13 and Barrio 18, which operate in the country. These organizations, among other things, are dedicated to drug trafficking and extortion. Before the government's reversal, some 16,000 of their members were imprisoned. However, with the arrests of the last 3 months, they would be behind bars. 5,908, 84% of the 70,000 members officially considered to exist in the country. The majority of those detained are still awaiting trial, while humanitarian organizations and even the United States government have called on El Salvador to respect human rights. The death of Old Lynn, where iron dies, iron dies. This is what has been said since ancient times. And when a person takes the path of evil, that's what drug traffickers are told every time they enter that world. Just as they take the lives of thousands of people along the way, they also slowly dig their own grave, where sooner or later they end up meeting the same fate as the people they once killed in cold blood without any mercy. Old Lin was no exception to this rule. The same thing happened to him, since among the little information available about him, it became known how the police arrived too late to take down the well-known gang leader, as the Zetas group arrived early to capture and subsequently kill the man who had once caused them so much trouble. Although no official video exists, a couple of videos have become popular in the last week where you can clearly see Old Man Lin's face pleading for mercy and human empathy, but as if he were dealing with wild animals. The mercy they show him is little or nothing. This horrible case shows us how he can only get out of this business in two ways. The first sounds like jail, and the second is death. And from what we saw with Old Man Lin, we can say that jail doesn't sound so bad. So we reached the end of this video. If you liked it, I invite you to give us a like so we can continue making more videos like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss out none of our new videos. I wish you a great day until next time.